Hey, Max is Max, man. He did, and we never saw him again.
Yep.
Never saw him again.
He snatched those Oscar's ankles, and he never looked back. I mean, turn one was essentially the deciding factor. Turn one, lap one was essentially the deciding factor who won that race. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Around the Circuit, Apollo Media's Formula One podcast. As always, I'm Junior, joined by my boys Mark and Ivan. We're here to talk about the Imola Grand Prix that happened over the past weekend. Man, it was a busy weekend. Lots going on, mostly in qualifying. It was a very, very busy qualifying session. And then the race itself, I don't know who said there was no passing or overtaking in Imola, but the drivers proved us wrong this weekend on many occasions. RIP to the track rabbit.
Very much so.
I got to throw that out there. And yeah, boys, how are we feeling after Imola?
Feeling all right.
Feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the new tire they brought. Seems like that helped for the racing a lot too this weekend.
Yeah.
I feel like it helped push them away from it just because of how soft it was and the tire deck that everyone was getting. But yeah, it was interesting to see them put it to use in qualifying and how it affected, I guess, the times. And
yeah, because they brought last year's soft tire was like the medium tire this year, and the medium tire from last year was the hard. So.
Yeah, this was the first track they used the C6 at, right?
Yeah,
it was interesting. Let's start with qualifying. First off, we gotta say thank goodness Yuki is okay.
Thank God,
because that's probably one of the worst crashes I think we've seen in the last few years.
Yeah, I
mean, we've seen some hard shunts, we've seen some hard, crashes, but to see Yuki go airborne like that, do a flip, do a barrel roll,
that was.
But he got up. He was actually out of the car pretty quick and walking away. I don't know if he jumped out fast enough just to kind of prove to himself that he was good, or to prove to everyone else. It almost was scary how fast he got out. They didn't really have a chance to check him out. But that was a hard one. That was a big one.
Yes.
And then we had Franco, his first weekend. He had a little bit of a rough weekend, I'm sure. Yeah. Ivan and his Alpine team will get all into that.
Yeah, it's been a weekend.
But yeah, I mean, we saw two big wrecks in qualifying. I think they were both in Q1. Brought out red flags.
Yeah.
Qualifying has been something to watch this season. Yeah. I think, especially the last few weeks, every qualifying session has been extremely close. If you're taking pole, I don't think there's been a pole winner yet, right? Or was it?
Let's see. I know Oscar's done it one time.
That was last weekend.
Yeah,
right?
Last weekend was the only one I could think of.
Weekend before.
Yeah,
that's only happened once. Yeah. Other than that, pole is not guaranteeing anyone.
No, not at all.
Anything so far.
Maybe this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that with the Monaco parade coming up. But yeah, man. What Max took pole, or not? Oscar took pole with 34 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, it was one of the closest qualifyings we've had all year.
Yeah, and that was after a very busy red flag.
Yeah,
right.
Q1, Q2. Mark, do you want to talk about it?
You know what? I was in a good mood until you brought that up. I was in a fine mood. Yeah, it was disappointing. Just disappointing.
Yeah, I think I was, and I'll mention it here a little bit about how they, where they finished in the race. But to see Charles and Lewis in a Ferrari get out qualified not only by both Williams, but both Aston Martins, and Pierre Gasly in an Alpine. It was not looking bright.
Yeah, not good. Like I said, going into this weekend, I didn't expect much at all. Home race, that doesn't mean anything. We're not doing anything. So after, was it P11, P12, or was it P?
It was P11 and P12.
I was like, okay, just finish the race in points if you can. I was just like, okay, not looking good. But like I said, just finish in points, actually finish, and I'm fine. Obviously a lot better, but I'll get into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was, for Ferrari, you could not have started off the week. Honestly, for the entire country of Italy, you couldn't have wrote it any worse. the two Ferraris is bad enough, but having Kimi go out right behind them as well. It's like,
Kimi too.
It's like, man, I can't imagine what that crowd reaction was like there live at Imola when they were like, all three of our guys we're rooting for this weekend are out right now.
Yeah, it was a rough qualifying.
Shout out also real quick to Aston Martin. Whatever upgrade they bought this weekend seemed to have worked pretty dang well for that damn car. So
and it was, I know Fernando Alonso, I was actually kind of a like disheartening, like sad radio to hear middle of the race where he just let out all his frustration, and you don't really hear that from Alonso a lot. He's very vocal on the radios. He's one of the most, or probably the most experienced driver on the track right now. And so to hear that kind of message come out of him, it was really, especially after a really good qualifying. But like you said, whatever they brought, there might be hope for them, as the season goes on. Speaking of upgrades, Red Bull seemed to do something right. I didn't look too deep into what upgrades they brought because they said they weren't going to be very big. There was, at the beginning of the season, there was this magical huge upgrade coming at Imola, and then right before the weekend, Christian Horner was like, I don't know where that came from. We have small upgrades coming, but nothing huge. Whatever they did helped, because going into the race, you had Oscar at P1, Max P2, and George P3. Lando was right there at P4. And that first corner, that first turn, whatever, man, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just a beautiful move.
Dude, I thought we were just talking about it last weekend, and I was like, we're about to get the crash.
Yeah.
We're about to get the crash. And no, Max just sends it and somehow gets by. Piastri, you could tell he braked a little bit earlier because he's like, oh, no way. He's about to make a move on me right now. Nope, Max sends it. And like I say, Max is Max, man. And we never saw him again.
Yep.
Never saw him again.
He snatched those Oscar's ankles, and he never looked back. I mean, turn one was essentially the deciding factor. Turn one, lap one was essentially the deciding factor who won that race. But yeah, he took the lead, and it was an amazing move. But to see the pace the Red Bull actually had throughout the whole race, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to get my hopes up because we've seen a lot of these cars, even the McLaren, have been very track specific and stronger. Going into Monaco, it's a completely different track than Imola. But Ivan, that first move, man.
That was a move that you're going to see on Verstappen's highlight reel for like the rest of his career, pretty much. I do also agree with what George said later on. That was weird F1 TV that y'all played that George audio like 20 laps after the move had happened. Him saying, "What are you doing, Oscar?" Because in his mind, in George's mind, he's like, "Why are you blocking me off? Max is the one we both got to worry about. Why are you blocking me off?"
And he said, "What the fuck is his Piastri doing?"
Exactly, because he's like he left a door to block George pretty much, and George, out of all the three of them, got the best start out of the grid. Like, I honestly thought George was going to be the one coming out of turn one with the lead.
Honestly, like the initial jump, I was like, man, Max got off slow. George was right there. Yeah. I mean, I was like, man, there goes Max. Like it was like the initial jump. I was like, damn. And then to see that move, I almost wonder if like going into that, to that first turn, if Oscar didn't think, like I really don't think he thought Max was going to send it, because with the gravel trap right there, he was like, well, if he goes off, then his race is completely ruined. There's no way he's going to try that. In other tracks, like we've seen earlier this season, you go off, you come back on, maybe the person pushing you off gets a penalty. Maybe the person pushing you off doesn't get a penalty. We don't know anymore. Yeah. But no, man, I mean, it was, I would say I saw one person, I think somebody tweeted, it said that move right there proves that, what track was it that when Max got pushed off, it was at Jeddah? Yeah. I think they said that right there proved that, everyone said Max was never going to make that corner. That right there proved maybe Max could have made that corner, but not to go backwards. It was just a brilliant move. Like you said, we're going to see that highlight. Yeah. If he goes to win the championship, like at the end of the season, because it's so close right now, that's going to be one of them up there. I mean, it's the second win of the season, so.
That was also like one of the moves where Imola's like a weird track, because I saw a quote going around from Verstappen about, well, maybe I should just try to qualify second here from now on, because starting P2 is weird in this track, because when you're on pole, you're on the left-hand side, but turn one, is on the right-hand side, the entry.
Yeah,
So
well,
it kind of gives you an advantage.
Yeah, it
there.
throws you into almost a chicane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
weird, but he actually got an advantage starting off there. And also, I know George blamed him, but George didn't do him any favors either. Because
no.
If George hadn't been, and I mean, I understand you're going for the lead. I don't blame him at all. But if George wasn't there, I'm assuming he may have tried to gone to the right a little bit more. And even he said after the race, I braked way too early in that corner because he was overcorrecting. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think he kind of did that later on with the Lando, him going wheel to wheel with Lando. I think he braked a little too early there and almost caused them to have contact. So we'll get to that later. But I that track really surprised me this weekend. And the only thing that changed throughout that track was the tires. So
yeah, you
have to give kudos, shout out to Pirelli because we don't do that too often. That new set of tires they brought, and also coming in the next week with the extra pit stop you have to take. And I wonder if they're going to bring those tires back again. It's going to be an interesting Monaco race, and I haven't said that in a while.
Yeah. Man, and then I almost thought we were going to get to see the McLarens fight a little bit. I had the hope, we talked about, we really haven't seen them go at it. There was almost the first shot that we had at seeing them go wheel to wheel. Now, there would have been maybe a little asterisk if they would have actually really fought, because there wasn't much of a fight there. If they would have really fought, you maybe throw a little asterisk considering at the end of the race, when Lando finally passed Oscar to take P2, Lando was on fresh tires and Oscar had 17 laps on his. So, you kind of take it with a grain of salt, but I was this close to we were finally going to get to see the McLaren
It's what
boys.
we've been asking for, those top three guys, just the McLaren boys to go at it. And
Fire rules out the window.
Fire rules out the window. We still haven't gotten it. But, I mean, can't blame them. I mean, they're up there. But Max, he's making it close with the Drivers' Championship.
And I think they're finally starting to feel a little bit of pressure from Max. I think, he won in Japan. They're like, okay, whatever. He won one race. We're still with Oscar's got 4. And like I said, they obviously both still have the lead. They're running away with the constructors, but you can see there's movement, man. I don't know if it's Red Bull brought some upgrades that worked, or I don't know if y'all read there was a TD implemented at Imola.
Oh yeah, for the tires.
Yeah, for the tires, and there was something else on the body that I saw. It was a small TD. McLaren said they didn't end up having to change anything, I think is what they said, but you see all these TDs coming out after all this inspections, and it raises a flag. If there's anything there, probably not, but it raises a flag at least,
That and the Red Bull upgrades coming at the same weekend are kind of hard to judge.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so hard, is because you can't tell where the upgrades begin or if that TD started doing anything. And from what I've heard from some McLaren people, they were like, that dirty air that the Red Bull gives off, maybe that's one of the upgrades they did, because couldn't get near Max without the McLarens being like, oh, we got to back off.
Yeah,
we can't do this.
That's been a trend all season, but like you said, it was really bad at Imola. Even the safety car, the full safety car we had, the restart.
Yeah.
I mean, Max is known for his great starts but I mean, as soon as he gunned it, there was nothing.
Gone.
I mean, he was gone. He put a 5-second gap on, within the first 3 laps. I'm not gonna lie, when the full safety car came out, I was nervous. They pitted Lando. Lando was able to pit under the safety car. And I was like, man, Lando's on fresh tires. If McLaren's smart, they'll make the swap as soon as they can.
Yeah.
They ended up letting him fight. It ended up being harder for Lando to catch up, I guess, than they originally realized. And by the time he caught up to pass Oscar, I mean, Max had a 6-second lead at the end of the race.
Yeah, something like that. But
yeah, I mean, Max ended up taking the win. The McLaren boys wrapped up the podium, but Williams is still back.
Williams is back.
I mean, double points.
Yep.
Even though Alex had his run in with Charles at the end. I think if you go back and look at it, it's similar to what we've been seeing all season.
Yeah.
I think Charles got a little bit too much elbow out.
Yeah.
It would have been a penalty. And I think after I was watching the post-race, Martin Brundle mentioned if he takes that penalty, doesn't give the spot back and takes that penalty, he's maybe P10 or even out of the points.
Yeah.
Charles was frustrated all weekend, especially after qualifying. So it didn't help
at all, especially with the safety cars and everything going on. I mean, you heard it immediately after. He's like, "Why am I giving it back?" And I was just like, "Dude, I mean, it was close, but like, you have to give it back. You can't take that penalty right now. You have to get all the points you can." Lewis is right behind you. Like, you couldn't take that penalty.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It was I understand on one hand Charles's frustration because, like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, he literally shouted out, "This is the way we race now. This is the way the rules are written now." And it's like, he's seen Max, he's seen Oscar, he's seen all these other fights where nobody leaves any room and everybody gets shoved off. The main difference, though, is that this is a purpose-built track, unlike these other street tracks we're at. So it's a totally different ballgame. You don't have any runoff. Most of the time, like we saw in Jeddah, if you're running Max off the course, he's running in the pavement and he can just easily ride off and still be right next to you. There is no runoff of pavement there at Imola. Like, that to me was the reason why he got the penalty. If there was pavement there, I think it would have been clean and it would have just been, I get the chance to fight. I was honestly, shout out to Alex for saving that. To be able to keep that and still stay between both Ferraris after going into gravel. I mean, he literally looked like Carlos's dad. He looked like a rally driver out there. Like, it was crazy. I couldn't believe that he kept up with them. Williams, honestly, if they don't have that run-in, Oscar's even said it in the cool-down room, they probably would have got a podium. Yeah. Like, he would have caught up to Oscar had Charles not have to hold him up for that lap.
Yeah, man.
Alex has been great this
year. He's already got 40 points this season in the first 7 races. I think in the first 7 races, he had 0 points last year. Yeah. It's insane. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I've been on the Williams back agenda. I fully expected them to come fight in the midfield. We've been surprised they're doing even better. But I didn't expect Alex to be the lead racer. Yeah. You know, at the beginning of the season, we talked about maybe it lit a fire under Alex, gave him that extra motivation he needed. Like, hey, I got a driver like Carlos coming in. I can't, no lollygagging around, you know, for lack of better words. But Carlos is finally getting his wheels up underneath him. He's, you know, he finished in points. But P5 for Alex is just, for the third time this season, I mean, he is driving his ass off, man. Just, there's no other way to put it. And as a Carlos fan, you know, seeing what they're doing at Williams, and I like Alex too, don't get me wrong, but just seeing what they're doing as a team, you know, the constant double points, they're fighting Ferraris and Mercedes on a constant basis. Like, who knows what happens in a few years? You know what I mean?
Dude, it's beyond what I was expecting. Like, at the beginning of the season, I was like, yeah, Williams, they're going to make noise, but not this much noise. Yeah. Like, they're most definitely, like, they're going to get a podium eventually in the season.
It's coming soon.
Probably multiple.
Absolutely.
And, like, Carlos had sort of a slow start. Yeah. And, you know, you can see he's starting to get back into it.
I know he had some frustrations at the end of the race too, but he's getting it together.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like his frustration is that honestly, I think a Ferrari, he was used to them just saying, go have at it. Ferrari really didn't have a team first mentality until pretty much the end of the year when they realized they were in the running. But I think that's Carlos's only frustration, is that he felt like he can't move up the grid because he's having to make sure the team game and play that out. But Alex, I think I've been surprised, and I feel like shout out to McLaren because they kind of started this. Now Williams is kind of continuing it. They're showing if you have two teammates that are close to each other, back in the day, that used to be viewed as the worst thing ever. You have two drivers that are going to be alphas, so why would I want that? I want one good driver and one okay driver that can get it done. If you have two good drivers, that means you have a better chance of winning the constructor. That's the reason why McLaren is probably going to wrap up the constructors by the time we get to like Zandorf or somewhere like that. Yeah. That's another reason why Williams is ahead of the other two teams. You think of all the teams that are behind them. It's like you got Haas behind them. You have Ocon and Behrman, one rookie, one veteran. Same thing with Aston Martin, Racing Bulls, which we're going to probably get to Liam Lawson later on because Hadjar's been carrying that team all year long so far. Same thing with Alpine and then Sauber. Like, both of those teams have a 1A, 1B. They have their slots. Williams is kind of like, we just want two good drivers. We can get the rest happening. Their straight line speed really did help them over there. I really do. I wish I could see them on the podium. A double podium, I think, would be the best thing ever for them. But I think that's going to be the one thing that we're going to have to see is which one of those drivers gets the first podium?
I think it's gonna be
And does that
Alex.
change? And I think it's going to be him too. Even me being a Carlos fan, I just
Same.
think he's been doing so much better in qualifying. But
Yeah.
I mean, you look what he did last race, and it's hard to not say Alex.
Yeah.
he's been probably, honestly, he's up there with like George and Max for like driver of the year right now. I know Oscar you have to give it to because he's leading, but out of those three have been the most doing the most that they can with what they've been given.
I was gonna say, considering where their car's at, he's up there with getting. I think Mercedes has a very fast car, and they surprised more people than we realized.
Yeah.
After seeing what Lewis went through with them the last couple years, coming into this year, they've always had a decently fast car, but their car has been pretty freaking fast this season.
Yeah.
They did struggle this weekend. Where did George finish? P7? P8?
Yeah, George was P7, and
P7.
obviously Kimmy didn't.
And then Kimmy unfortunately had the DNF.
I felt so bad for Kimmy.
Yeah, it sucks, man, because Toto was away.
Yeah.
But it was still his home race. He brought all his classmates from school for the weekend. He had a really good homecoming. And then he was out in Q2, and I called it. I don't know if y'all remember. I called it. He was going to struggle in qualifying, have a kind of a shitty qualifying, but he was going to bounce back. I fully expected him to bounce back. Unfortunately, he ended up having an issue with the car, had to, pull over DNF, which caused one of the two safety cars during the race.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the Tifosi didn't have.
Yeah, especially when I was about to say that
the Italian fans didn't have the hometown kid to cheer for after
Imola's. This is the last year of Imola.
Yeah,
Madrid goes in next year, and there's no room for Imola for next year.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are losing Imola next year.
Yeah, I normally watch the F1 TV broadcasts, and I will say I love everything they do there. I did want to kind of call them out on one thing because they were talking about after Kimi got wrecked or a DNF, they were saying, well, he did have his friends come over. Maybe that did distract him from having, some more time to practice and get ready. There's nothing that can get you ready for your engine blowing out.
Yeah, unfortunately.
There's nothing you can do in that situation.
If he would have made a mistake, put it into the wall or something, okay.
Exactly.
But, yeah, I think he had a rough qualifying. And even if he makes it to Q3 and is starting in the top 10, he had a car issue. There's nothing you can do about that.
It did look like Mercedes was a step slower than what they normally have been.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was track dependent or if some other teams are upgrading more than Mercedes is. Also kind of like a weird thing. The first weekend, Toto wasn't there all weekend. So
it was the first weekend. I
don't know if that has anything to do with it either, but it was just a weird weekend for Mercedes. They didn't look as clean as they normally were. And side note, I don't know, for me, it seemed like everybody was having a slow stop. Like everybody was having a 3 second, except for
not Red Bull.
I was going to say, except for Red Bull, who had like their normal 2.1, but everybody went back to like 3.6 seconds. McLaren couldn't get an Oscar stop right.
No.
I felt so bad for him in that situation. They could not get any stop right.
They did not give him any help at all in that situation. Got to shout out, and I'll let Mark kind of carry it away. But we got to shout out our man Lewis, man.
So good.
I can't. If I don't, I know there's some Ferrari fans and some Lewis fans that are gonna come after me. Y'all know who you are, but got to shout out Lewis, man. He had a really good race.
Really good. Race.
After the disappointing qualifying, and shout out Charles too, because when he gets his frustrations out of the way, it could have been P5, but a P4, P6 finish isn't bad.
No,
they had a really good race. They recovered well after qualifying 11 and 12, but to finish 4 and 6, Lewis had his best race.
Yeah.
He even said it, his best race of the season so far with Ferrari. He was happy. He was cheering on the fans. Showing them love. Gave a bunch of kudos to the team.
Yeah, after the race in the radio,
it was
complimenting.
It was good to see a happy Lewis after getting, as Ivan has said, the full Ferrari experience the last few weeks. He
got the full Ferrari fan experience, performing in front of the fans, which was amazing to see. Just a great start. I mean, I don't know what they put in his Ferrari or in both of the Ferraris, but Jesus, can we get that every week?
Yeah,
because man, his pace was amazing, and I obviously know that's partially Lewis, but still, that car looked the best it has all season. Even if it is a track thing where it's a certain track, still, that car looked the best it has all season. So I'm not gonna get my hopes up for Monaco, obviously, because even Charles was asked. He's like,
Yeah.
"Do you have any hopes for Monaco?" And he just said, "No."
Yeah.
Exactly. No, no. We don't. There's no like. Obviously, I hope Charles does something, but I'll say that for later. But right now, it's fine. The vibes are high. P4 for Lewis. He wasn't gonna get a podium. He wasn't.
I mean, I know he had hope there at the end of maybe
Yeah.
catching Oscar because, like I said, for the top 5, I mean, Oscar had the oldest tires. I think with only 3 laps left, it was just a little ambitious. He gave it a shot, but a good P4 finish for Lewis.
Good
man.
P4 finish, and I mean, hopefully they can grow from here, get more podiums, or maybe even a win. That's all I ask of you, please. That should be the bare minimum.
A Lewis win with Ferrari is going to be something to see.
Yeah,
it's
like a full win at a sprint, like a full win. That would be
imagine he
amazing.
wins in Monza.
It was a good weekend for Ferrari. They honestly kind of needed it because with the consistency Williams been having, they couldn't afford it a no points weekend, especially. They got really, really lucky with the safety cars. Like, honestly, I was thinking this too. For all the luck that Lando has had in Miami back-to-back years, it's like literally it all came back in Max's and Ferrari's favor this weekend.
Yeah.
Anytime there was a safety car, like you said at first, I was like, ooh, this may shake it up, the second safety car. No, then Max got to run away again. It literally gave Max, anytime he was trying to get to the edge of the pit window, it was like, here's a safety car for you.
Yeah.
Same thing with Lewis when he was out there. It was like, here's a safety car for you. We'll give it to you. The main people that got kind of screwed out of that we talked about earlier, Aston Martin's got to be, I mean, you heard Fernando, but they got to be livid. They were the ones that got pushed down a totem pole just because of all the safety cars. And it was having a VSC that was probably the longest VSC I've ever seen in my life.
Christ.
I'm
not gonna lie, I think they got a little ambitious with it being a VSC because of how close Kimi's car was to the exit. I think it could have been a full safety car because then it raised the question. I think if you go back and listen to the radio, even Max said was, well, Kimi's was only a virtual safety car. Why is this one a full safety car? I don't know. I mean, but even then, that full safety car was a long safety car. I mean, I think they were behind a safety car for what, like 8 laps?
Yeah.
It was something crazy.
I think it was like 7 or 8 laps. Yeah,
it was a long safety car.
I think from what I've seen is that it's weird. They were very, very, very close to each other where Ocon and Kimi were. But because Kimi was further up the hill, they had to pull the tractor all the way out and go all the way around, bring it out. And you can't have cars running at full speed at that point compared to where apparently they could have just put the tractor arm over the railing and then lifted Ocon's car up like they did the first time. It was just literally maybe 10 or 15 yards up the track, and that made a key difference to making it a safety car to a VSC.
Yeah. We shouted out Ferrari for their recovery. We got to shout out our boy Yuki.
Absolutely.
Yuki, after that, terrifying crash that he had on Saturday, the mechanics Red Bull put it together. They had a long shift. I could only imagine the night they had putting that car back together.
That must have been hell.
But to start in the pit lane and finish P10.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a little help, like most of the point finishers had a little help with the safety cars, but to go from the pit to P10, I mean, he was still obviously disappointed with himself. He said he shouldn't have made that mistake. He probably could have finished much better. I think Yuki has struggled in qualifying. He's starting to feel, at least in the races, feel that Red Bull.
Yeah.
I think if he can just get it to put it all together in qualifying and have a really good qualifying, P5, P4, P6, somewhere around there. Yeah. I think we could see a Yuki podium, especially with the upgrades that Red Bull have brought. Max praised the car, and from what I saw, they gave Yuki the same setup as Max. They didn't hold back any, as far as upgrades, because I know that when they brought the new floor, they only gave it to Max at first, and then they gave it to Yuki following. But I think they were both running the same setup. I'm telling you, we might see a Yuki podium this season, and I can't wait, man. I can't wait. He had a really good recovery though, so we gotta show Yuki some love, especially after the bad crash.
I think he got a bad rap because I know a lot of people. He was tough on himself. I mean, nobody likes wrecking, but I mean, y'all saw the onboard from that accident. It's not like, I mean, he legit got the left side of the car over the curbing, And it was like he was going over
just
ice.
Launched him, yeah.
It just launched him straight towards the wall, and he just, fortunately, like we said, we're glad he walked away. But that was I haven't seen a wreck like that since Joe Grand New's wreck at Silverstone a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You don't normally see cars in this sport flip, so it's always good to see that the safety steps that they've made forward are actually still working. Yuki, from going, like you said, from pit lane to P10, is something that, if you were at a backup of the grid team, you would get shouted out like crazy. If this was Williams last year, that they would be celebrating having a champagne challenge right now. But because he's at Red Bull, I think that's something he has to get used to, and you kind of like to see that from him.
Yeah,
still.
and I think he expected more of himself. Like I watched his post race. He was like, look, they do as they're walking off the paddock. They talk on the microphone for the social media team, whatever. He goes, I shouldn't have had that mistake. I expect more of myself, but we'll bounce back. Shout out the team. I'm glad I was at least able to give them points for their hard work.
Yeah.
But on the junior team, Isaac Hadjar, you mentioned it, Ivan. Man, he's been driving, hasn't he?
He's been killing it.
He's been driving. He had another points finish. I think he's had, I made a note. Let me check it. He has had 3 races where he finished in the points in a V carb. That is impressive. It's impressive.
You look at what Liam's doing?
Especially when you look at what Liam's doing, where he's finishing bottom 5 every race in that same car. We have praised Kimi. Kimi is in a Mercedes. He's in a fast car. Kimi he had a very big, shine around him coming into the sport. He's got his documentary, little short documentary, and everything. A lot of people expected a lot of Kimi, and he's kind of lived up to the hype. But honestly, I think Hadjar has been Rookie of the Year so far. He did have his bad, race 1 in Australia. He was, beat himself up. Anthony Hamilton was there to, console him. There was the whole thing around that. But ever since then, he has bounced back. Even if he had a bad qualifying, he has bounced back in the race. And if he didn't finish points, he was right outside the points. I think he had a couple P11s and P12 finishes. So, I don't know, man. I think, my opinion so far, I think Isaac Hadjar has been Rookie of the Year. Behrman is a close second. When you look at what they're driving and what to expect from them and their car, that's just my take on it. But I don't know.
No, yeah, definitely. Because you look at Kimi's doing amazing, but then you look at the cars and you're like, okay. You're doing amazing, but you're in a fast car. But you look at Hadjar, Behrman, and you're like, okay, y'all are... Obviously, Behrman didn't have a great race this last week. Obviously, it's a Haas.
So. It's a Haas. You take the highs with the highs and lows with the lows when it comes to Haas.
Right.
But then you got to bring up Bortoleto. His year has not been great with Kicksauber.
It's rough. Like we mentioned, I think last week too, it's rough to drive for that team when all of their focus, similar to Aston Martin, is on next year.
Yeah.
Kicksauber becomes Audi next year. So, the 2026 car is like the front of all of their development, all of their, focus. So you kind of take it. Talking about them too, they were the winner and runner up of the F2 championship, if I'm not correct, right?
Yeah.
I think Gabby won it. Isaac was P2 in the championship.
Yeah.
So, their records speak for themselves.
Yeah.
But how much can you expect out of a Sauber?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. You can't expect much, but still,
yeah, it's been rough. When you look at the people with no points, it's all rookies because I still consider Liam a rookie. And I guess it could still be all rookies if you consider Fernando Alonso a rookie. Unfortunately, he's one of the only he is the only non-rookie to not have points.
Yeah.
I know he had hope and he got disappointed this weekend, but
again,
I'm sure we'll see.
I give him a lot of grief, father time and everything, but still, he's in a rough situation, and to qualify that high and then you get nothing out of it. I can only imagine how extremely frustrating that is.
Absolutely.
I compare the Rookie of the Year race this year kind of like and follow me here, but what Albon and George and Lando are kind of going through, where you compare the 3 drivers that entered at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You would think, okay, Lando's going to be the best out of the 3 because he's in the best car. But this year especially, I would say, no, Albon's been the best driver out of the 3 because look at what he's driving compared to those 2. Same thing with Hadjar. He's driving an RB which we may have to start asking questions kind of like at the main team, Does RB have a second seat problem? Because this is the second or third year in a row where Danny Rick was the number 2 driver. The number 1 driver on that team was Yuki. Yuki was in that number 1 car forever. And, Hadjar moved up to Yuki's car now. And now it's Liam who's struggling in that number 2 car, where it's like, I know they're different teams. The cars aren't made at the same place because by F1 rules you can't. But at the same time, it's been a 3-year issue now where from pretty much 2022 on, that second driver at RB can't get his act together either. They've been doing a rotating door over there too.
Yeah.
Hadjar has been doing amazing though. He has really, really shocked me. For a person that finishes F2 in second place, I really thought, okay, he'll have a decent year, maybe get like 5 or 6 points, but to be in the points as consistent as he has, and he's made a lot of good on-track passes too. Like he hasn't just been sitting there. So I think it'll come along to him. I think he honestly may be in the running for the Red Bull seat next year, depending on everything that happens.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how how those contracts play out at the main team. Obviously, Max probably isn't going anywhere, as much as the rumors have circulated. He's pretty much said, "Look, I'm with Red Bull. I'm racing until 2028. When my contract's up, we'll see what's up there." The speculations are going to speculate. Yuki's the big question. Does he stick around with the breakup between Red Bull and Honda, and him being a Honda driver? We'll see. There'll be some questions around those 2 teams and the 4 drivers. And, we mentioned it when he got moved down that Liam was going to be under pressure. And we knew Jack wasn't going to survive the season. And we, back a couple weeks ago, a few weeks, we said that Liam might not survive the season either. I don't know if they're exactly ready to boot him yet, because they really don't have a driver set to take that seat. Now, they have that kid, I don't want to mispronounce his name.
Arvid Lindblad.
Arvid.
Yeah, Arvid. It's an interesting
They have
name.
already talked about him racing in F1 soon. I wouldn't expect to see him this year, but he's been killing it in F2. I, luckily enough, got to watch him drive a V-Carb here in Houston when they did the show run. The kid can drive, man. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, next year with those 4 seats, how they shuffle. If Yuki does leave Red Bull with Honda, does Isaac get promoted? Yeah, there's so many, speculation, so many ifs, ands. We can only
kind of like last year. I think summer break's going to be telling, because I did hear today that based on what he's done so far, when he turns 18 this summer, during the summer break for F1 too, he would have qualified for a super license at that point then.
Arvid?
So, yeah, Arvid. He would have enough points for a super license then. So if Liam is still struggling at the summer break, we may have literally a Sergio Perez 2.0 situation where we have a whole summer break where it's all talking about what Red Bull, or the junior team in this case, is going to do. Because it's some tough decisions to be made. Liam, technically, I know it's his rookie year, but technically this is like his second or third year in the sport. So, I mean, time's running out, buddy. Like, we all root for. There's no driver we want to lose his seat, but at the same time, it's a results-driven sport. You got to have the results there on the track every week, man.
They say it all the time. It's cutthroat sport. You perform or you don't, and if you don't, hey, there's only 20 seats, and there's plenty of drivers waiting to take one of those seats,
right?
Which I guess there'll be 22 next year.
Yeah,
but
22.
Before we wrap up Imola, y'all got any last minute thoughts on the performances or the drive itself? I mean,
nothing. It's just,
as a Max fan, I almost wore my shirt to celebrate the win, but last time I wore it, he didn't win again until now, so I just kept it subtle with the hat. As the Max fan here, I had to be happy. I know Dom, our boy behind the camera, is not happy with George's results. Mark's happy with Ferrari. He takes what you can get.
I take what I can get.
Alpine, unfortunately, Franco did not have the best, introduction to the 2025 season. At all.
Speaking of that, just want to get that out of the way. The whole Jack Doohan situation. We were talking about it before. Formula Fakers. It's the F1 NBA, NBA NBA Centel. They posted, it was after Franco's crash in qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
Just.
They made an edit as if Jack's dad had posted on Instagram. Yeah.
And Argentinians, man, Ivan had.
Yep.
Which post was it? Where it was something about Yuki. And
it was a Yuki post that, Argentinian fans were. There were absolute wild comments.
Yeah,
there was a map that showed where Hiroshima was bombed and everything like that. It was wild stuff that they were commenting. Even Franco had a comment on it this weekend.
F1 Twitter fans gotta chill.
It's
crazy.
I
say Twitter it's
It's
online
Twitter.
F1 fans have gone like there's been some stuff this
Because
season.
after that happened, fans went absolutely nuts. Literal reports had Yahoo Sports posted about it.
Yeah.
Which we've seen with NBA Centel. He tricks people.
Yeah.
But Formula Fake, I mean, it got around and Duhan's family had to suffer so much of that. And Duhan's been through a lot. And, you know.
I mean, he lost his seat, and then to see all that coming out of it, I mean, the kid just wants to hopefully get back in the sport.
Because you have
kind of bounce back.
Reporters not doing their job and doing simple reading, and F1 Twitter stands and fans doing the same thing and not reading and going after this driver who just lost his seat.
Yeah,
it's completely unacceptable. Absolutely. Argentinians need to do better because I get it, that's your guy, but I mean, and Formula Fakers did, in my eyes, nothing wrong. It's the same thing Centel does. And, you know, just F1 Twitter, you have the stand, you have all those people who...
There's a lot of people that don't like Fakers, but, I mean, it's in the name, it's in the bio, and they came out and they apologized. There's trolls and parodies all over the internet and all over Twitter. Yeah. I think the worst part is, like, there's so much push to get the stories out that nobody's fully reading. Everybody it's instant reaction, you know? Yeah. You got to take time to sit back and actually... pay attention to what you're looking at.
Yeah. Last thing too, I was kind of bad. They made Doohan go to the F1 pen this week. He was not in the motorhome for Alpine. He had to be in the F1 official motorhome because they wanted him away from the team so he wouldn't distract Franco, which I understand helping your boy out, but at the same time, like, he's still part of the team. He still deserves to be there. Like, you can't just kick him out of the motorhome and be like, you stay away from us for this one weekend. You're grounded.
I mean, I saw the team release a statement and everything. It got messy fast. Just be better online, fans. Better. Come on, like we can do better than that. But before we get too caught up in a time, let's go into Monaco. So Monaco, being Monaco, it's the crown jewel, as they say. It's probably the most historic race we have on the calendar. Unfortunately, with the size of the cars, it's become a parade. I looked at the results last year qualifying. The top 10 that qualified in the same finished in the same order. That was just top 10. I didn't even go into into the bottom 10 to see how there was a couple wrecks. I think that was the weekend Sergio and Magnussen crashed and went out.
Yes.
Qualifying, we mentioned earlier, has been close. This is probably going to be the most important qualifying session of the season that we're going to see all year, because even with the new rule where they have to make 2 pit stops, like, how much are we going to expect? There's just no overtaking. Monaco is just such a narrow track with the size of these F1 cars today. There's just not a lot of room to really make. I mean, you get maybe 1 or 2 spots where you could make a move and hopefully you don't put it into the wall because it's so narrow. It's still an amazing track. It's an amazing view. It's like no other when it comes to the vibes, I guess we said, kind of,
Oh yeah.
But man, it's gonna be hard to make predictions on this one.
We texted it earlier this morning.
You mentioned it earlier. Did you come up with anything?
Yeah, I don't. All right, I'm not 100%.
Like I said, qualifying is gonna play an important part, and because of how close it's been, it's hard to predict. I'll let you kick it off. I've been letting you kick it off the last few weeks. I'm gonna keep it rolling. You kick it off the predictions, and we'll go from there.
All right. First, with back-to-back wins, I got Max winning the Monaco Grand Prix. He's been amazing in qualifying here before. I think he'll do the same thing. And second, this might shock people, I'll go Lando. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that somehow he'll pull it out in qualifying. It could be close, but I think he'll put in P3, George Russell. George Russell will be P3. I think
Shout out
Dom. Last year, Oscar was really good in qualifying this year, but he's notoriously not been great in qualifying. And I think in this one, he'll fall not that far behind, but he'll fall a little bit. So I don't think he'll be amazing in qualifying.
Okay.
And driver of the day, I'll go Charles. Simple one. I'm trying to get more points, man.
Right. All right. For me, I'll have the driver that almost won it last year. I'll have Oscar winning. I'll have, I guess, I'll do George Russell second. I think he's going to have a bounce back weekend. And then for third, I want to go Lando, but I'm going to try to go, I'll go Albon. it's a track where you don't have to have any speed or do nothing. You just have to put a lap together. So
Yeah.
I think maybe this is the weekend Williams gets it. For driver of the day, I said Lewis last weekend, so I can't say him again. I'm probably going to have to go with I'll go with Max. I think Max is going to pull some overtakes off, even though he may not be on the podium itself. And also, I think that McLaren may has a chance to do something that not a lot of teams have done in history, which is win Monaco and win the Indy 500 next weekend, because those are both on the same day.
Yeah.
They have a driver in the front row, y'all's boy and my boy too. Pato is starting on the front row
Pato,
for
please
the
bring
Indy
it home.
500. So it's going to be definitely an interesting weekend. And I don't think Zach Brown is going to be there. I think he's going to be at Indy. So it's going to be a big weekend for the team as a whole.
Man, I've been thinking about it all day. So we texted this morning about our predictions and where we were at, and I've been thinking about it all day. Qualifying is going to play a huge part, but so are the pit stops now that we have to make 2 pit stops. Red Bull's coming off a strong weekend. The upgrades look nice. Max praised the car. They're really good in the high-speed corners, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of high-speed corners at Monaco. So I'm scared how the car is going to react on this track. Like I said, it's been very track-specific, and they were not strong at all at Monaco last year. I think Max qualified and finished P6 last year. And then Checo DNF'd with the wreck, and he was even at the back because he had a bad qualifying. I think he was out in Q1 that weekend.
That's so bad.
That was in the middle of his struggle that he, the struggle bus he rode all in 2024. Man. Qualifying's been close, but I think Max splits the McLarens. It's going to be Lando wins. He's going to get a second win of the season. Max P2. And I think Lewis gets his podium.
Why'd you say that?
I think Lewis gets his podium because the Ferraris recovered well. I think they're going to come in with some motivation. Lewis got his best race of the season. He's going to come with some motivation. With 2 pit stops, there's going to be some undercut go on, and they're going to bump Oscar out. So you're going to have Lando, Max, and Lewis podium. Driver of the day is going to be Lando. That's my prediction. Oscar is going to be right there. I just feel like he's going to catch a bad pit stop, especially if Zach's not there and they're coming off a bad weekend where their pits weren't the best. I think Lando takes home the win just because he's going to have a good qualifying. Max is going to be Max, and then you got Lewis right there on the podium. So that's my predictions of Monaco. It's going to be a great race. I mean, it's going to be kind of boring. I'm going to give anybody who hasn't watched a Monaco race before a heads up. It's probably going to be pretty boring.
Get your pillow ready.
Get your pillow ready. But it's going to be a nice race. It's still the most historic race probably on the calendar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So any last thoughts before we call it Raz, boys?
Why'd you have to say Lewis is going to need a
Look,
podium?
man, it's you. It's not you saying it. It's me. So there's a difference.
I guess.
There's no jinx there.
Okay, man. We don't get this podium.
Look, man, you won't be the only one coming after me if he doesn't make podium for me predicting it. Ivan?
For me, my last thoughts, I wanted to give a shout out to 2 former Formula One drivers / reserve drivers, Takuma Sato and Robert Schwartzman. They're starting 1-2 in the Indy 500 this weekend. Robert Schwartzman is an 18-year-old rookie who's never raced on an oval and got pole position on the Indy 500. So no rookies won this race since like the 40s. So shout out to him for doing that. Sato is another driver that drove for Toyota when they were around in F1 too. He's been a veteran of the game, so he's won Le Mans a couple times as well. So those 2 drivers really stepped up, and Pato's right behind him. So for Pato to try to prove he wants to get in the game next year, you got to beat 2 guys that have been in the game before. So I don't see it written any other way.
Man.
And
I'll be watching.
It's the best weekend in motorsports. If you're a motorsports fan, Monaco, we have Indy 500, and then you got the Coke 600 if you're a NASCAR fan. Big 3 racing going on all day.
Le Mans isn't far away either.
Yep, Le Mans not too far away either.
So motorsports fans are in the prime of the season and enjoying all the time. That's going to be it for us today. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to Apollo HOU. Follow us on all our socials. The link tree is in the description. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Twitter. We'd love to hear from y'all. We'd love the interactions, the comments on the video here on YouTube. And then everywhere else, we'd love to hear from y'all. As always, I'm Junior, Mark, Ivan. We'll catch y'all next week to recap Monaco and preview Barcelona. We're out. Peace.
See ya.
Peace.